Hi, and welcome back again to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. I am your co-host, Kolby.
I'm your co-host, Jeremy.
I am a co-host. Is there such thing as three co-hosts?
Tri-coast?
I am a sidekick, Jessica.
And today we are talking about The Truth About Thurman.
By Jenean McBrearty.
Yes.
Yeah.
McBrearty, is that?
If you haven't read it yet, you should read it, ideally, before listening to the podcast. You can get that at Amazon.com. You can download it. If you like this podcast, feel free to like and subscribe. If you've got a story you want to submit, go to our website, afterdinnerconversation.com. You can submit stories. We'll read them. If we love them, then we'll be one of the ones we discuss someday.
Where are we at?
Oh, we are at, thank you.
You're welcome.
At La Gattara, where they have cat rental. No, it's not cat rental. They adopt cats out, and they've always got loads of cats. We've had them, if you hear clicking and clacking in the background, it's not that Jeremy's a bad sound guy. It is that there are loads.
There's
also
that too.
Yeah. There's got to be, 25, 30 cats in here?
I don't know if there's that many
Maybe
cats.
20.
There's
There's
a
like
lot.
a dozen.
High teens.
High teens, yeah.
And they are adorable.
They are adorable.
And you can come pay to sit and be with them and have them knock your stuff off the table or sit on your laptop. So if you're missing a cat and you want to come and hang out, you can...
Yeah, and they're
This is
super
a
nice to
great
let us
place.
stay here. This is our
Yes.
8th or 9th episode here. It's really nice of them.
Glad you can count.
Yeah, I'm totally losing count. I don't know how the people are like, I've done 200 episodes. I'm like, how would you even remember that, dude?
Because they write it down.
They
They
have to
write it down.
Yeah.
It's this thing called pen and paper, Kolby.
God, I should totally try that. Okay, so for the people who haven't read The Truth About Thurman, Jessica, would you like... I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Yes.
Don't-
I just gave Jessica a heart attack. Because she hadn't prepped to do a summary.
No.
Jeremy has prepped to do the summary. So, Jeremy,
Yes.
Jeremy does good summaries,
he
too,
does.
guys.
What is it?
Well,
Tell us
we'll
about
see.
The Truth About Thurman
Okay,
for the
The
people
Truth
who
About
didn't,
Thurman.
didn't read it.
So, as the story opens, our protagonist, Captain Thurman, waits to see his commander. When he's ushered in, they begin discussing the events that led up to the capture of 2 American soldiers and the ultimatums from their captors. Apparently, the jihadi captors want the military or the government to pick which soldier will die and which will be released. During these scenes, Captain Thurman also displays several odd moments of misogyny, or what's the other term?
Misogyny?
No.
Oh.
Anyways, yeah. They discuss the characteristics of the 2 soldiers, presumably to find out the potential fallout of watching either of them be murdered by the jihadists. First soldier, Whitcomb, is gay. The second, Chandler, is a Jewish woman.
I feel like this is a math problem.
Right. The commander suggests that either way, someone will be offended, and brings up the movie Sophie's Choice, saying that no matter who they choose, the jihadis will most likely kill them both. So the best thing they can do is ignore the request and work on a rescue. Thurman is unhappy with this response and spends the next 48 hours cleaning and repainting his apartment while watching Sophie's Choice and trying not to think about the torture and violent end the 2 soldiers will undoubtedly face, as intelligence operators are unable to locate them for a rescue. So once completed with the remodel of his apartment and the movie, Thurman agrees with his that his commander is correct. To be chosen as the insignificant one would be another torture.
Oh, you pulled that quote right from the story. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
It's a synopsis.
No, I know, but that's like a direct quote. That's awesome.
All of this culminates with the reveal that Thurman and Chandler were engaged, and he wonders if telling the commander that she was pregnant would have made any difference. The story ends with Thurman shooting himself just as news reports the videos of the soldiers' executions have been released.
Okay.
So it's a real lighthearted story,
Yes.
Right.
as
Yeah.
they all are.
Doesn't he paint his entire house black or something?
Yeah.
Black over all the
Velvet.
mirrors? Velvet?
Yeah.
Did he paint? I know
thought-
he was.
well,
he was
draped
replacing
everything with
black
velvet.
velvet.
Everything,
and-
everything, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
which is, covering all the mirrors and stuff is a Jewish tradition when somebody passes away.
Jeremy, you have thoughts when you read it?
I mean, the topic they bring up is really good. The idea that to choose, again, Sophie's Choice is a great example to bring into the
It's driving me
story.
nuts. I can't think of the name of the term.
Of the
that's based
term.
on. Yeah, I'm going to look it up.
I was thinking toxic masculinity. That was the other term.
Toxic masculinity. The commander guy. Yeah, he was kind
Well,
of
even Thurman, they're both a little
yeah.
I don't know, steeped in that. I feel like the story is pretty well written. You do get the characters' motives and their thoughts in this, and it's an interesting perspective. The question that asked is very hard to answer. How do you choose?
Hobson's choice.
Hobson's choice.
Yeah, that's the. If you're Wikipediaing something, Hobson's choice is the thing you Wikipedia, and then Sophie's choice is the movie that's roughly based on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was gonna forget.
No, and isn't there? They bring that up in Rick and Morty. She has to choose which of the.
I don't watch it, guys.
Rick and Morty is really good. It's really good.
Whatever.
So I'll tell you one of the things I really liked about this story is it's not particularly long. It's 5-6 pages. You could read it
in a sitting.
Not long. And it is kind of a one-trick pony, right? It's the what do you do in Sophie's Choice or Hobson's Choice scenario, but it doesn't stretch it out into 35 pages to ask me one question, right? And I really appreciated that I could be like, yeah, just give me like the sketch.
Here's the scenario.
Give me the sketch and give me the choice, and let me have something that I can decide what I think about it. And I did appreciate that it was both did something interesting and did it in a brief way. So I didn't feel like I don't need to know what color.
Right, and too much character development.
Yeah, and for this kind of thing, I don't think you necessarily need
too much of that. Yeah.
Yeah, in the same ways.
I agree. I think the story does, in a very limited amount of space, give us kind of a scenario for us to mull over. It did remind me. I do want to say before moving on that Sophie's Choice is a fantastic novel and does a ton of character development, and it's heartbreaking, and it makes you cry at the end.
I haven't even seen the movie.
The movie is also really good.
I skimmed the Wikipedia.
Oh.
I haven't. I'll watch it at some point.
I'm just saying character development isn't bad, but I think for the purposes of like discussing a really interesting moral problem, it also reminded me of Black Mirror, like just like the concept of like. So I have trouble watching Black Mirror, so I don't watch. I think I've watched.
You're gonna have to give me a background. I don't know.
Oh, Black Mirror is a show on.
I'm aware
Netflix.
it's a show, but I thought they were all individual one-off episodes.
They are.
Right.
So you can't just say it reminds me of Black Mirror.
Which episode?
Because I have to know which episode.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think the reason why it reminds me of Black Mirror in general is because I think at the end of Black Mirror, perhaps. And my personal fault in this, I didn't realize that it is really sets you up to have these kind of same after dinner conversation discussions, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's exactly what Black Mirror is.
But I have such a hard time just digesting the content that I don't watch it because it's too horrifying. And I'm a horror writer. So I find it funny that I just realized sitting here like, oh, that's exactly what Black Mirror is doing.
The other one is Love, Death, and Robots on HBO. Also, same thing, where each episode is short. It's like 8 to 15 minutes. It's animated. Really? And it's really just like here's a one-trick pony sort of story.
Right.
But the trick is always really good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, Kolby, one of the things that you said was that you like the story because it set up the situation and gave you something to think about on what choice you would have made in this situation. Yeah. So, what did you disagree or did you agree with what happens in the end?
So, I took a different tact. So when I see these sort of situations, I am of the opinion, and this is tangential to the story a little bit, in that when you pay a kidnapper, wow, holy cat fight.
Over the bathroom, of course.
Again
over the bathroom with the litter box. When you pay a kidnapper, you're telling people you should probably kidnap. When you pay a pirate who steals a ship to get your ship back, you're telling them they should probably
okay.
Right. Like if being the sort of
you're establishing a norm.
Yeah, you're establishing that it's worth doing. Wow.
Again, we're in a cat lounge.
Yeah.
There's cats.
Yeah. And so I think even in this kind of case, like if you're doing it quote unquote right, if the person says, look, we've got 2 people and we're going to kill one of them, I think you smart bomb the building that both of them are in.
Oh,
and you're like, look,
interesting.
we know we
couldn't locate the building.
Or in the case of the kidnappers or in the case of the pirate ship, if somebody's like, how much will you give us for the pirate ship? You blow up your own ship.
Right.
And you're like, just so you're not clear, you will never make money doing this.
So
and then you don't get elected president again. Should also be clear.
Kolby is not running for president.
No.
So I think that's a very interesting approach. So
It's a logical approach. It's not a very useful
Empathetic approach.
It's
Yeah.
not an empathetic approach.
well, and yeah, and might be hard, especially in the scenario. We don't know where the kidnappers are or the hostages. But it is interesting when we talk about so there is this idea that giving terrorists or giving people that either pirates or jihadists or giving them airtime on social media
You're giving them exactly
is
what they
exactly what they want.
Exactly the same
So
thing.
that is the payoff, and there is this idea that if we can squash that, if we can remove them from social media, if we can get Twitter to do that, or if we can get YouTube to do that, that they are not getting the payoff and the recruitment that they were hoping to get by doing this. But then that also represses the horrors that are happening and represses freedom of speech.
So one of the things that came up, I think it was New Zealand, that had their first mass shooter ever.
Right.
And all the newspapers and the press and everyone cooperatively agreed that they would never say the name of the person.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
they're
and you're starting to see that more
Yeah.
often now, and that's been one of the suggestions that psychologists or everybody has been making is don't release their name because this is promoting it to other people who would be copycats.
And make them feel,
I will
make them
become
feel
famous.
they're famous for it. And I think it doesn't really go into this in the story, but I think that's why the terrorists in this story do this, is they don't really care if one person or two person dies. They care if they're on the news having made the U.S. government choose who dies.
Absolutely.
Right? And so in that sense, I guess that they
make the right
they
decision.
made the right choice, right? But now, do you want to be the one to make that phone call to either one of these people's
and that is
families and be like, hey, we made the good choice, but bad news about your whatever.
And that is one of the things near the end when Thurman is thinking about all of these things. Specifically, that comes up is who's going to tell the families of these people.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what happened.
So here's some. I wanna throw some scenarios at you guys.
All right.
So would this story would it have been different if it was a soldier, a U.S. soldier, and a soldier from a different country?
Shouldn't be. I would say, though, that if it was a soldier and a non-soldier,
The soldier dies.
yeah,
We get that.
You signed up for that.
You signed up for
Yeah.
that.
Yes, you get
but
free
still,
college tuition.
Thank you very much
For your service.
For service, thank
Yeah.
you. I'm not saying anything but I think the soldier would also make that choice.
Because they know what they signed up for.
Right.
Right.
Would it be any different if it was somebody with an outstanding service record and what's his face? Who was the defector? Halt.
But someone who defected.
Yeah. Somebody who defected from the United States Army.
So to me, and this is why I think this part I didn't care for the story. The idea that one person is gay, one person is a Jewish woman. I don't care. You're not worth more or less because you're gay or a Jewish woman or what. I don't care about that. I think.
I think they were doing that to begin that discussion. How do you choose?
Yeah.
What are all
Right.
the factors? And the commander says it doesn't matter. Who you choose, somebody's going to be upset.
Sure.
So the only choice is to not make a choice.
I think it's interesting. So I think the writer did that intentionally to kind of lead us down this idea of evaluating soldiers with pro and con lists. And that the story didn't go that route, which I thought was obviously really good. That would make me very uncomfortable. But not that being uncomfortable is a bad thing. I love to be uncomfortable. But that we to send us down that route of pro and con, and then just say it doesn't really matter. We don't negotiate. Right. But I do think about that pro and con list. Would it have made a difference had he said that she was pregnant? I don't know.
That might have to me actually.
Really?
Because here's. Yeah.
Because then an innocent civilian.
I guess.
But here's
that's
the thing.
An innocent fetus. It's a clump of cells. But
Yeah, no, I know, but I understand that's, but I just feel like it has the ability to become a person. It's a whole thing. I don't know why that would have mattered to me.
Huh.
The thing that was disappointing to me and I think it was written to be disappointing to me. It wasn't that the writing was disappointing. Was that the military was interested in which one was the worst story, and so their reason for non-participation wasn't for the reasons we're discussing. It was, well, it's a gay person and it's a Jewish woman. But if the person hadn't been gay and had just been a Jewish woman, they're like, oh well, the fallout would be less. Like, the only reason they did nothing is because the scale was balanced in the PR fallout.
All right.
Not because of what we're discussing, which is like a life is a life is a life.
Right.
Unless you've signed up for it, unless you've sort of stepped forward in whatever form that you do.
Right.
And so that part, I think, falls into that sort of toxic masculinity. It just shows the government as the sort of blanket, inept, PR-related entity, right?
Right. What's the best of the worst-case scenarios?
Right.
Well, and I think the line that you read in your summary, Jeremy, about
to be thought less.
To be thought less.
Yeah.
I also found that it was an interesting assumption that the jihadists wouldn't say, like, "Oh, they picked you, right? I'm gonna kill this person and kill them," and then be like, "Just kidding, they picked the other person and killed them." Like,
right.
There's the idea
to force
that
the
why
government to make a choice. Exactly.
Well, because the PR goal is for them to have made a choice,
right?
Not that we follow through on your choice,
right?
Yeah.
Correct. And yeah, I think that.
So one thing I didn't understand about this story, and I think it serves the story perfectly fine. It just didn't make any sense to me. Is the main character, Captain Thurman, why he kills himself at the end? Like, obviously because he's there's the Jewish woman and he's engaged to. Like, I get that, but like people's engaged die all the time.
But he doesn't want to see her beheading.
Sure. I don't watch that YouTube channel. I'm totally down for that.
Well, what?
But
so
I
disagree.
don't know why he just killed. I don't know why he killed himself at the end.
So I don't think it's because he doesn't want to see her beheading. Not that he wants to see her beheading. But I'm just saying
I thought it was because he didn't tell the person in charge that he knew her.
So I wonder if it is this deeper. So there is some hints throughout the story of this kind of personal struggle to have a relationship, and there's like the relationship with
like a cat whisperer.
I have a cat that's sitting on my story. I can't reference it, so I'm gonna have to go from memory. It has a pink bow tie on. It's very cute. So from memory, there's a medal that's
right. He has a triathlon medal.
Oh, it's a triathlon medal encased in plexiglass on the mantle, and that's it. And the relationship with the mother is a little odd.
Right.
His decision to get married seems to be based on that there is a medal there, and it would look good with a diamond ring. I don't know.
It's a little right.
So I don't wonder if he has just a very difficult time
interacting with people in general.
And then he finally finds somebody that he is in love with, and then he can't act in a way to save her, and withheld information and living with that is too hard. This idea that I was involved in the decision and I did nothing and she dies, and therefore it's
his fault.
It's his fault.
Okay, I can see that.
I also think that had he been doing this right, and maybe he'd even have an obligation to, I don't know anything about the military, he should have told somebody. Like, he shouldn't have even been in those rooms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he should have been like, hey, by the way, I'm engaged to this person. And he'd be like, we understand. We're going to show you to the other room.
Yeah.
We have somebody that's going to fill your place for you.
Yeah.
This is not your problem anymore.
Yeah.
But it doesn't serve the story to do that.
Well, and
correct.
What I would say is that, how to put this?
You try and not get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. I think.
Don't be a disappointment to your daughter. Don't be a disappointment to your
I
daughter.
think a lot of white dudes think that they can act in a way that is unbiased.
In those situations. Right.
Because that's like the manly thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to that idea that we were talking about with like toxic masculinity, we hear, he says some things that come from a place of toxic masculinity. Sure. To me, he says, I can, and he acts without bias for the most part, right? Like
until he blocks himself in a room by himself, right? But in public, he's
compartmentalizing and
right, and he thinks, and this idea that, and to go back to that idea of toxic masculinity, it is a societal problem that we do not allow men to say like, hey, this is going to personally affect me. I'm going to recuse myself. Right. And we don't let men do that. If women do it, and we allow women to do that, we absolutely do. We also think that's very weak. Right. We're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Man up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man up.
Grow a pair.
Right.
Yeah.
And so perhaps with the maybe what we can say is that the end of the story is perhaps a bit of a statement of the effect of toxic masculinity, this idea that you must be brave, you must be unbiased, and at the end it will kill you. Good luck, white dudes.
Well, no, I think, but that's, I don't know where I saw this from, but it may have been a Simpsons episode. I don't know. But somebody's having a conversation with an old, crusty old guy, and he said, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, you swallow that down. And you swallow it, and you swallow it, and you swallow it. And he's like, really, Grandpa? And he's like, yeah. And then you get cancer in your stomach, and you die.
That's absolutely from The Simpsons. I totally remember that episode.
Yeah, and it's like, but I think that is part of that culture of toxic masculinity, of like, I'm going to internalize too much because I have some societal obligation to take that on silently. Right. And be like the cowboy in the West or whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, man, I had a hard day, or I saw a Hallmark commercial and it made me cry.
God, that Sarah McLachlan song.
We went to the Musical Instrument Museum last night, and I'm watching this thing on the thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry.
Kolby cried at the...
I totally cried at the Musical Instrument Museum.
Well, there was a really great exhibit about the kids. It was Paraguay, where kids were making instruments from trash.
Literally going through a trash heap and then like
instruments.
banging out
That's
and like
cool.
getting like
Getting
aluminum
a
cans.
beautiful violin and that cello.
They played better than you in a lot of ways.
I mean, bar low.
Yeah.
But
out of a gas can, by the way.
And then I cried during a Maori wedding ceremony, which I've seen that video literally 1,000 times on YouTube, and
you still cried.
But very socially acceptable for me to boo-hoo through
But
the
not
museum,
for me.
but not for Kolby.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I don't mind crying, actually. I feel like that's how you know you're alive. Like if you had a good cry, that's how you're like, you know what? Like I still am able to feel things that make me cry.
I wish that I was more okay with crying. I'm not, but I cry all the freaking time. All the time. Hallmark commercials, trailers to really terrible movies. Cry all the time. I cry all the time. Yeah. My daughter loves to stare at me while
you're
I
crying.
cry.
Yeah,
Great.
my wife does the same thing. She's like, are you crying? And I'm like, of course I am. I cry at everything. Shut up.
You should watch Grave of the Fireflies.
No, you shouldn't. That was like the first movie Jeremy recommended to me when we first met, and I never will forgive him for it.
Yes.
Anything else about this story you want to discuss?
One of your questions.
Yeah, what are the questions? Was there one that you liked you wanted to discuss a little bit?
Discuss, because it reminded me, you said...
Hobson's Choice, I did find it.
Hobson's Choice. To do something about, should there be a criteria? Should there be a pecking order of who gets saved first?
Oh, yeah. For me, it's just you're in the military or not in the military.
Okay, but what about on the Titanic?
But what this reminded me of,
Yes.
to reference, is the Radio Lab. Or This American Life. There's one of those.
They all run together.
About the hospital in New Orleans during the Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
Where, because of the fallout of this hospital, the medical community has developed a process to choose who gets saved.
Who gets taken out of the hospital in the event there's a limited amount of time to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really glad it's medical personnel who make that choice. But it has to be made.
Right.
Here's the other one that I think has come up as well, is the concern about self-driving cars. That if they're given a choice, you're now relinquishing that choice of like, kid runs in front of the street, person on the side of the street riding a bicycle,
right?
And the car is now going to make this choice of which is more valuable or which has the higher percentage chance of safety or whatever.
Right.
And do we want to remove these Hobson's choices from our driving process? I'm gonna just take one quick tangent, just because I totally forgot about the questions. Are there times when you think, when not a life or death Hobson's choice, just the sort of you get one or you get neither, where it is okay to say I'll take one, like you can have pie or cake, but you can't have both?
Well, okay, so.
And when you take it away from the life or death scenario.
I mean that's easy.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Generally.
The answer is cake.
Okay, fair.
I mean, unless it's a cream pie. Is it a cream pie? Because we can have a different discussion.
Okay.
But yes.
That's our next podcast.
Pie or cake.
Pie or cake. Pie or death. Cake or death.
Cake or death.
Yeah.
Cake.
I'm gonna go one other question for you then. What about if you're the general guy or the guy making these decisions, and one of them is a family member, one of the people that's captured as a family member?
Well, don't you recuse yourself?
You recuse
You
yourself.
absolutely should.
Well, okay, but so if you're asking me,
Yeah.
as like,
Do you still take the moral high ground, or do you say
I will give you a scenario that is similar, but maybe not exact.
Okay.
San Diego is where I'm from, and well, not where I'm from, but this is where I live. And we get riptides all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So my husband was with me, and his best friend was visiting from Kentucky, and we were swimming, and we were caught in a riptide. And yep.
Oh, wow.
And so I had the
That's
choice.
like something from a movie.
Yeah, riptides are actually very common, and they're super easy to get
just
out
swim
of.
sideways.
You
Just don't panic.
You swim parallel to
Yeah.
the beach until you're out of the riptide, and then you swim in. You don't panic, Alex.
Did Alex panic and try to swim against the riptide?
Well, so both. I don't think either of them understood that they were in a riptide. I think that if you've never been in a riptide before, you don't necessarily. And I hadn't either, but I am a swimmer, so I was confident
understood
in the water. And so I had this choice to stay with them and try to help them get to the beach, or get to the beach myself. And I knew, like, I was close enough to them, and I did tell them that they were in a riptide. Like, I did.
And they should swim sideways?
I did, but I don't think they quite understood or maybe believed. I don't know. And so I had to make this choice of whether I tried to stay with them, and I 100,000% picked myself. I swam parallel to the beach and swam in. I passed a lifeguard on the way in.
By the way, my husband's out there dying. I saved myself so that I could come here and tell you my husband's out there dying.
Yes.
I told them, but their toxic masculinity is keeping them out
I
there.
don't think
They
it
were
was
unwilling
that.
to listen to me because I'm
I
a
don't
woman.
think it was that.
I tried to get the guy next to me who was a man to tell him it was a riptide, and he wouldn't do it. So I thought they might listen to him.
But it was one of those moments where I got to the beach, and it was interesting because I think before that situation, I always thought that I
would help them.
I'm very much, I love other human beings. I'm very into other humans. I think we're all so amazing. And I thought for sure I would try to save that person. And I was like, nope, me first.
Yeah.
I will save myself. And I knew there is extenuating circumstance. I knew there was a lifeguard on duty. I knew she could come out and save them. By the way, she did not have
And
to
did you
pull
think
them
to
in.
yourself, like, 90% chance they'll figure this out? I'm going to go swim for sure.
I don't know that I even thought 90%. I thought maybe
70%.
70%.
Oh, my God.
The odds are still good.
Odds are still
Odds
good.
are still in your favor.
Right?
Yeah.
So I will say, I've made that kind of choice in real life, and it was not the choice I thought I would make.
Oh, there you go. You are listening to After Dinner Conversation with myself, with Jeremy, with Jessica. We've had a great time talking about our Hobson's choice in the story, The Truth About Thurman. I think we've decided that Jessica is willing to let her family die.
Not my family, just my husband, guys.
Just her husband. And
I love you, Alex.
Yeah.
I swear I would not let you die.
And that because Jeremy has once served in the military, we let him die first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you signed up
Great.
for life, right? You're always, once
Absolutely.
you signed up, you're for life, you're the first one to
Oh,
go.
I didn't think about that, but absolutely.
Yeah.
We're letting her die first.
And we're here in La Gattara with cats, having a great time. We heard a couple of them getting a little disagreement over something. They're probably at a Hobson's choice about the litter box. You either get one litter box or you get no litter box. And if you enjoyed this as much as we enjoy doing them, please like and subscribe. We have a heck of a great time doing it, and we're glad that you're watching, and that allows us to continue doing it. Next week, we have another story. You have the email with the story
The
list?
Alpha Dye Shirt Factory.
Oh, the Alpha Dye Shirt Factory. Yeah, this is. I can't tell if it's a comedy or a tragedy. We'll see. But what the story is, a fire breaks out. Okay, it's a tragedy. Out at a garment factory, and one worker has to make a life or death choice. So join us next week, and we'll have that discussion, and we'll probably pick on each other a little bit more and pet some cats and have a great old time. Thank you for joining us. Bye.